My passion really is creating product. It's what I'm good at. I enjoy developing and designing product. I enjoy my skills that I have learned over the years in choosing fabrics and designing apparel. And, I guess that renewed sense and watching the Giro, that season in 2015 really kind of sparked a desire to start something new. And I felt that if I could make a down suit that put someone on the top of Everest, making cycling apparel, I know it wouldn't be easy, but I don't think it'd be that difficult. And certainly, if someone's on top of Everest, you've got to make something that's going to bring that person back alive. So I felt that I could use my skills and my passion for cycling and put the two together. So hence Ciovita was born.
Welcome to another episode of Ride to Success, the podcast that takes you on a learning journey to a more productive, creative, and active life through the power of the bike. I'm your host, Pedro Couto Lopez. You can find me on LinkedIn under my own name. And in this podcast, I explore cycling's global trends, community needs, innovative business strategies, and the journeys of remarkable individuals in the world of cycling. Our guest today is Andrew Gold, the CEO and founder of Ciovita, a brand that has taken the cycling world by storm, from humble beginnings to becoming a global leader in high-performance cycling apparel. Andrew has built a company that embodies the spirit of cycling, pushing limits, embracing technology, and fostering a strong, passionate community. In this episode, we will dive into this journey, how Ciovita was born, the challenges of scaling an international brand, the future of cycling gear, and of course, the personal drive that keeps Andrew moving forward. So whether you are an entrepreneur, a cycling enthusiast, or someone looking for a dose of inspiration, this conversation is packed with insights, innovation, and a touch of adventure. So make sure you tune in. Now, before we go into the podcast, if you liked what you listened to, please consider subscribing, following the podcast. It helps me to continue to bring you amazing guests like Andrew Gold. Now, back to the podcast. Welcome, Andrew, to Ride to Success. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Awesome to be here, Pedro.
Brilliant. I wanted to start by looking more at the background, understand a bit more about you as a person before we get into the weeds of the business, the global business that you run. It's always interesting to learn and find out about how people start riding bikes and get into cycling. What is for you your earliest memory of riding bikes?
Sure. I think if I look back in my memory box, it's probably as a child. I remember riding a BMX bike. I think it was a red or blue rally. I remember it just had back brakes, and I think
Okay.
probably how we all grew up in those days. We went to visit our friends on bikes, and we came home just before it was dark, or maybe when it was getting dark. And yeah, that's probably my earliest memories of kind of just riding on the dirt with my friends and doing skids with the back brakes on the BMX.
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty of learning how to ride a bike as a kid, because that gives you that freedom. You go out, explore, gives you a sense of independence as well from your parents. Is there growing up, has it been more than just riding bikes? Have you taken racing? Has it developed into some sort of hobby or sport that you actively did, or it's just been always something that you did with your friends?
Yeah, it was. I guess it was. I definitely grew up riding bikes. That was how we commuted. I used to ride to school and ride on the weekends. And I guess it was probably in high school. I guess what maybe you guys call middle school. When I was about 13 or 14. I joined the school cycling team,
Okay.
and I guess I took it quite seriously. In South Africa, we've got a big cycle race called the Cape Town Cycle Tour, which is the largest
Yes.
time cycle race in the world. So like
Yeah,
35,000
I've heard,
people doing the ride, and they had something very cool which they no longer really do, but there was this recumbent class. Literally for a few years. I used to watch these recumbents, literally like these bullet-typed bicycles going around the peninsula in immense speeds. And I guess that's probably what kind of fueled my desire to go fast. So I
Mm.
joined the cycling team at school, and there were, I guess like everyone has these rivalries. So the goal was to win the cycle tour in my age category, which I never did. I came like 12th, I think. So I soon realized that I maybe wasn't the quickest that I thought I was. So no, I guess yeah. You asked, did I ever have a professional career in cycling? No, I'm certainly no pro. That's for sure.
Okay, sounds like a typical growth into the sport. Started taking it a bit more seriously in the teenage years, but it didn't go much further than that. But I guess the maybe the interest, the passion remained, but not to the competitive level. And I wanted to kind of understand and trying to pick up the pieces. Can you talk us a bit how growing up, you have been involved in different businesses, especially in the garment industry. How was this part of like an interest that you had, like when you grew up as an adult, or was it this part of kind of something that was proposed to you, and it's like, oh, this could be interesting to an industry to work on?
Yeah, I guess it boils right back down to my childhood. I can remember. I think I've always had a very inquisitive mind, so I can
Mm.
remember, my mom throwing away her hair dryer, and because it didn't work any longer, and I would go to the dustbin and I would fish it out, and then I would take the screwdriver out and kind of see how it all worked and see if I could use the
Uh-huh.
motor inside. So I think I've always had that type of brain in wanting to find out how things worked and how to, I guess, make them better. And
Yeah.
then from the business side, I was kind of, I guess you could say, I was born into the manufacturing industry. My father,
Mm.
he had an outdoor brand making backpacks.
Ah,
So
okay.
he had that kind of before I was born, and then sold that business kind of when I was in late years of school. And then after that, I ran an outdoor business in South Africa that my father founded. And I worked there for about 15 years, and we eventually sold that business. But that business was fundamentally making very, very technical outdoor apparel. So
Okay.
down suits that people would use on the top of Everest,
Wow. So it's really, you need to really
ski wear.
understand the. Yeah, sounds like you had
Yeah,
to really to develop. Well, you or like your designer team, the like R&D team needed to really understand the nuances of what is it to be like at 8,000 meters of altitude, and
yeah,
what is the human body can withstand at those temperatures.
yeah. And the outdoor industry is, I think, is one of the pioneers really of like really technical fabrics, because when you're at those sort of altitude, and you've got those elements, the
Yeah.
winds, the cold. So the outdoor industry, I think, really pioneered, Gore-Tex fabrics, waterproofs, the
Hmm.
best quality fabrics that have ever been produced. Really found it out of a necessity to create product that could withstand anything that
Exactly.
Mother Nature throws at you. So I think we've been quite fortunate that industry has really sort of like pioneered, I guess, the fabrics that we use today in the cycling industry.
Hmm. Very good. I mean, so through this journey, I'm kind of interested in finding out, because cycling has been present in your early childhood through teenage years. As cycling as a sport ever influenced your personal kind of development? Kind of as an individual, and then later on as you were working with your father into you know.
Yeah, I think I shared the story earlier with you that I, may want to be the quickest cyclist. I may have thought I could have been the quickest cyclist, but kind
Yeah.
of I soon realized that there are always going to be those that are probably quicker around you, unless you a Pogacar or someone. So when you're riding your bike, I'm sure you'll have it, Pedro. You're in the
Yeah.
zone, and you're just feeling fit, and you think you're getting better and better, and all of a sudden another cyclist comes whizzing past you without breaking a sweat, and you soon realize that there are other people faster and more accustomed to riding a bike than what you are. And I think the same probably in
Mm.
business. I've got dreams and I've got goals for Ciovita. But
Mm.
ultimately, running a business is the same as riding your bike. The race is really with yourself. So,
Right.
not really comparing ourselves to other competitors, I think is important. Otherwise, you kind of just you get sidetracked into kind of worrying about that person in front of you. What are they
Mm.
eating? They must be doping. How can they go so fast? Their bike's better than mine. So I think it really just,
Mm.
how cycling has taught me, just really just enjoy the ride, do the best you can do. You've got to put in the training to deserve the results you deserve. Um, but, for me these days, I ride to get fit. I don't need to be the fittest person around. I
Mhm.
want to be able to ride with people that if someone phones me and says, hey, you want to go for a ride? I don't want to have to think, oh, I won't be able to keep up with that person. So as long as I can keep up with them for an hour, and then after that, I know I'm going for a nice coffee or a smoothie somewhere, I'm happy. So yeah, that's kind of shapes my riding.
I mean, it's so interesting. I mean, obviously, everyone has their own styles of writing. It should be like that. You don't need to compare yourself. When you're comparing yourself to others, nothing is going to ever happen that is good out of that because you're just not focusing on you do what you do
Yeah,
best, and you're not learning as well from what you don't do good. So
yeah,
that's that. I think what you said, it really encapsulates kind of what discipline that you really need to have as a business person to focus, whether you are actively solving a customer pain or figuring out how to innovate and bring to the market a new product that makes a better offering. So it's really important really to have that focus. But I'm sure it doesn't come easy to have that kind of that objectives set and then really deliver on them. I mean, and you have, with your background in the outdoor clothing, I wanted to perhaps identify if there is learnings that you have used from your experience working in your parents and your father business that you have applied to Ciovita, because it's not very dissimilar, the businesses of outdoor garment technology. Is there any lessons that you have learned from those early days that you have now applied with Ciovita?
yeah. I think it's like when you go to university, college, whenever someone teaches you something, it probably goes in the memory bank somewhere, and then you get to apply it in business or in your personal life at some stage. And I think I've been quite fortunate that I sort of grew up in a very entrepreneurial environment, with my father's businesses, and I worked at those businesses from quite a young age, and
Mm-hmm.
sort of so I kind of refer to it as a working MBA. I never did an MBA, but kind of going through the daily career, you learn every single day. Certainly from all the technicalities of producing outdoor apparel. That industry, as I said, is very, very technical.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of like garment construction and the fabrics, and in the outdoor industry, things are very much like patterns are very articulated to have shape to them. And we used to make down-filled sleeping bags, and the outside was cut bigger than the inside to allow the down to loft properly. And there were some really cool things that was happening or were happening in the outdoor industry that I have definitely applied to the cycling
Mm-hmm.
industry, and certainly
Yeah.
in terms of my knowledge with technical fabrics, and things like getting fabrics that absorb less weight in uh, uh, fabrics that absorb in water than other fabrics. So
Mm-hmm.
it's easy for a fabric to wick moisture and to dry, but ultimately you want to make sure that the fabric you're using doesn't absorb as much water as the other fabric that you could have been using. We do a lot of R&D and testing in that regard. And I think I studied production management, and I studied clothing design, and I've got an understanding of pattern making. So I think that's really helped shape my technical ability in producing cycling apparel. But
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, I think anyone's knowledge is really broadened by what you learned yesterday. So I approach every day with every day is a school day, and I've got an open mind, and I'm here to learn. So, that's the one thing that you learn very quickly in the production environment. We own our own factory. We've got 230 employees, and
Mhm.
anyone who has been in a production environment will tell you that no 2 days are the same. You can get to
Yeah.
work thinking your calendar's all sorted out, and there's a machine that needs a part, or there's something that's happened that was out of your control. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's a very fast-paced environment, but one I enjoy, but certainly has its challenges.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But I think in itself, already having that mentality of I'm really here to adapt to the needs of the business, to adapt to the business, to the needs of my team. And that in itself, that flexibility allows you to, as you said, to grow, and to reiterate and like just make progress faster, I believe.
Yeah.
And but I want to just take a few steps back here and really understand why you decided to start Ciovita. I mean, you started at a time 15 where the cycling apparel industry, the market itself, was starting to grow saturated. It's now at the point where it's fully saturated. But I wanted to understand first and foremost what inspired you to start Ciovita.
Yeah, the inspiration was quite an easy one. I took a break after selling the outdoor business, and I was very fortunate to spend time with my family. I took 6 months off, and we bought an RV and we traveled around America in this RV.
Oh wow!
And if anyone has that opportunity to spend time with your kids and your family for that amount of time, I would really encourage them to do it, because it changes your perspective on life and what's actually important in life. And you're traveling around this RV with all your possessions in a little cupboard,
Yeah,
and also you're in a foreign place, so you're not really worried about what people think about you, how you dress. So as long as you're driving courteously and you say hello to your neighbor, they say hello back. So, but no one's judging you. And it was on this trip that I was watching at the stage of the Giro Italia. And after exiting the last business, like I told you, production's quite a stressful environment. And I thought to myself, I don't ever want to have to be involved in production again. I've kind of had my career in that, and I've done that. So initially, before I left on the trip, I thought when I get back, I think I'll do something. I quite like drinking coffee, and at the time, certainly in South Africa, coffee was becoming quite popular. Roasteries were popping up all over the place.
yeah.
Um, but then, having been on the trip and I guess having a renewed sense of adventure, my passion really is creating product. It's what I'm good at. I enjoy developing and designing product. I enjoy my skills that I have learned over the years in choosing fabrics and designing apparel. And I guess that renewed sense, and watching that the Giro, that season in 2015, really kind of sparked a desire to start something new. And I felt that if I could make a down suit that put someone on the top of Everest, making cycling apparel, I know it wouldn't be easy, but I didn't think it'd be that difficult. And certainly, um, you know, if someone's on top of Everest, you've got to make something that's going to bring that person back alive. So I felt
Yeah.
that I could use my skills and my passion for cycling, and put the two together. So hence Ciovita was born.
When you first put pen to paper to start visualize what the brand would look like, what was as the brand identity and direction from where you started to where it is now? Has it changed, or as it has iterated through the years, or does it remain the same? Because I'm asking because I'm interested in finding out, like with a lot of founders pour their personality into starting a business, and the business in the early stages have share a lot of the personality, a lot of the that the founder brings to the business. And I'm curious to find out if that's your case or you had another approach.
No, I think that's very true. That assumption is, I think, very true to most business and entrepreneurs. I always say that the values that you, I guess, teach your children I've got two children, two children. I was trying to work out if that was right or not, but yeah, but I've got two kids, and so I would expect my children to go on a play date or go visit friends, and you'd expect their personalities to be similar in terms of their manners. So I wouldn't expect someone's parent to come back and say, your kid was very rude, and my other child to come and say, your kid's got such good manners. You raise your children in a similar way. And I think in terms of a company's values, that's also important because the company's got values and it's got culture, and it's important that I can't be there all the time to tell people what to do. And essentially, like, we've got to make sure we hire the right people that develops
Of
the
course.
company culture, and so that it becomes a place where everyone shares in the company's values, and essentially it that those values breathe life into what is Ciovita. In terms of starting the business, I think potentially a lot of people have started cycling businesses potentially because they just liked cycling and they don't maybe have a background in business or in whatever they're doing. Whether it's running a bike shop or designing apparel, or designing bikes.
Yeah.
So I think I've been very fortunate in that I have a background in business, having run a business for the last 15 years before
Hmm.
Ciovita, and I've got a background in apparel. I studied fashion design, so um, I think, so when I started the business, I did have a plan. The plan wasn't just to make cycling clothing because I liked cycling and I felt, no one was doing it better. Certainly, there are a lot of people, a lot of brands that's at the time and still to this day make better products than what we do. I think that's the beauty about someone like myself. I'm so entrenched in the products we create, and I'm so passionate about creating those products. I'm looking at other brands, and I know when another brand's making a better product than ours, and that gives me a kind of a renewed sense to, like, go out and make our products better. But it also gives me the comfort knowing that we've got our own factory, and so it's not a short game for us. It's a very long term game in terms of making sure that the products we create are sustainable. We can't just go and buy a machine that we're going to use for one season and then throw it away. So we make sure that we are creating a business that's going to be here in 20 years time. So for us,
Hmm.
it's not just about creating fashionable products, it's creating meaningful products that make a difference in cyclists' lives, and not just sort of fashionable products, but certainly at the forefront to starting Ciovita was to create products that we could be very proud to showcase along the best brands in the world. So your question was, has the brand identity changed over the last few
Yeah.
years or since inception? Yeah, absolutely. I guess any business owner maybe goes in with a little bit of naivety when you start a business, and you've got a lot of energy, and you make decisions very quickly, and some of them aren't always the right decisions. So one of the things that I knew from the start was this brand that I was going to start was going to be a global brand. I didn't want a business that was just localized to South Africa. And so when I started the brand, I got the right people involved. I've got two very, very capable um, partners in the business that I trust immensely. Freddie, who runs sales and marketing, and Colleen, who runs our design center,
Yeah.
and production. And from the get-go, like, they bought in to my vision that this brand is going to be a global brand. This is a brand that we as South Africans are going to be proud about. This is a brand that we're going to showcase. We've got this phrase that we're only recently using, which is Woodstock to the world. And so our
Yeah.
business, the production and the factory, is based in Woodstock in Cape Town, South Africa. And for the first time, I guess, the business now has been going for 9 years. literally only in the last sort of year have we really been shouting about, yes, we are a South African business. We are, this is where we started. We might now be selling globally, and we want to be a global business, but we're actually quite proud that our products are made in South Africa. When we first started the brand, and the reason we chose the name Ciovita is because in South Africa at the time, there weren't any really credible brands making cycling apparel. There were lots of fly by nights and lots of promotional companies that would would make netball jerseys and hockey jerseys, and then on the side they would make cycling kits. And so the name Ciovita was very, very intentional in that I wanted a name that sounded global. And so, when I got the idea to start the business after having watched, the Giro in 2015, what really resonated with me was the passion and the fashion and the people that Italy has. And that's really, those are the birthplace of cycling. When you think of Italy, you think of Ferrari, you think of Vespa, you think of Gucci, you think people drinking espresso. So everything that sort of epitomizes Italy is really what we wanted Ciovita to be. And because
Yeah.
all the fabrics that we use were being imported from Italy, we felt, well, this name Ciovita, which is a combination of a Latin CIO, meaning cho, and vita. So cho means to move or to go, and
Yeah.
vita in Italian means life. And kind of, it was just two words that these three people from South Africa put together. And so what's been really, really good for us is the name Ciovita doesn't actually exist in a dictionary yet. Italians can put the two together.
Yet.
Yeah, yet, exactly. So the name means life in motion. And when we've gone to see suppliers in Italy, everyone can put the two and two together, which is great. But to get back to your question on has the brand and the CI, has it evolved over the years? Most certainly it has. So back in the early days, we were kind of promoting the fact that all our fabrics were from Italy, and we were creating these great products, but never really promoting the fact that we have our own factory. We employ over 200 people. We have our own R&D center. We do all our testing, in Cape Town, South Africa, and and we're proud, and we're proud to showcase this brand to the world. So now
there's been a pivoting there in the direction.
Yeah.
So that's like
Yeah.
understanding that it needed to go to appeal to a broader audience, and stepping and looking into kind of lend itself a little bit, borrow a bit of heritage from Italy, and what's the connotations that you have with Italy, the association you have with Italy, as you mentioned, and then borrow that to the brand, because it gives a bit more credibility. And now it seems like you have pivoted in the sense that you are looking more inwards, looking into the heritage, and looking at the people that you serve, the communities that you work within. And that I'm interested to find out, because at some point in business, they start to grow, you start to gain credibility, start growing a loyal customer base. And when you're starting, you needed to borrow that associations, that look outwards to borrow that credibility. But now you have it, because you built product that relates and resonates with people using it. And looking inwards into your own heritage, into your own roots, as you say, from Woodstock to the world, that puts a pin in the map of actually where you're coming from. And I'm interested in that aspect, because in the work that you do, and in South Africa, in the Woodstock more specifically, how does Ciovita, or does Ciovita, work within the communities that exists, nurtures that the relationship between the workers that you have, over 2,000 people that you work with, and really kind of activate the purpose of the brand to inspire people to move.
Yeah. Maybe I must just correct you. It's not 2000. I wish it was 2000. Maybe one day it'll be 2000. It's currently around
Sorry.
just over 200, 230 to be precise. But
Right. Sorry.
maybe you're predicting the future.
Well, I've been known to do that sometimes. Yes.
Yeah, I think I never when I started the business, I never thought we would be at this point. I guess maybe so soon, or I never maybe
Okay.
envisaged employing so many people. So because you have options. You can have product produced in factories overseas, and but I think what's been enlightening from the start when we started Ciovita was having your own factory allows for something special. It allows for a culture to create where people really get behind the business. This is more than just a brand. Yes, Ciovita is a respected cycling brand in South Africa and now, in many countries around the world. But more than that, we're a company, and we're creating a livelihood for a number of people, and not just those people. It's their direct family members.
Of
So
course.
the apparel industry in South Africa was a massive industry in the late 80s, early 90s, and then like most countries, everyone started sourcing product from the east, and those factories started to close one by one. So
Yeah.
we're incredibly proud that we have a factory that employs people that's utilizing the skills that were going to be lost forever. So the one challenge we do have in that is it's perhaps one of those industries that not as desirable to work in as what it perhaps once was, with the evolution of tech and those type of things. Being a machinist being a skilled machinist can take you 10 or 15 years. And there's a real effort that's involved in becoming a skilled machinist. And that's not for everyone.
Yeah.
There's a lot more easier jobs to do that probably pay a similar rate. You can probably go get a job working at your local as a teller in the local supermarket and earn a similar wage maybe. But ultimately we're creating a community. And especially in Woodstock, it's a hub of an industry that used to be a booming one in the late 80s. And we are now part of revitalizing that industry. And so I'm super proud of the business that we are creating, and then the employment that we're creating. And we continue to invest a lot of money and time and effort and resources. We have our own training school. So we take students that have finished high school, and we invite them to come into our factory, and they come in for a 12-week period. And after 12 weeks, they get to decide would they like to stay and learn more about the industry, and potentially, maybe they don't want to be a machinist, maybe they want to go into design or something else. And give them that opportunity, and some of them at the end of that 12-week period, they say, you know what, this industry is not for me, and that's fine. So we're pouring a lot of effort into the local communities, and it's super rewarding to see people's faces when we show them images of our products on the backs of world champions. And it's not just local champions that we have in South Africa. We've put our products on many world champions. We products for some of the well-known brands, some white label products. I can't mention those brands, but certainly all our staff, they know they've made that product, and that's what gives me a lot of satisfaction in knowing that we're creating employment and a livelihood for those staff.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's such a. I think that's especially in businesses that are rooted in locations. It's so relevant because you are through that internship, that 12-week internship, you're creating a constant flow of people, and then you can capture some of them. You will not capture all of them, but you can capture them so you can revitalize those skills, can upskill the people coming into work at the factory. And it's a great way to have a kind of a pillar within those communities that you exist in. And this is something that is, you mentioned that having your own factory, it's something that seems from what you're saying is quite integral to the business. I mean, I can see the two main reasons. One, that you have that center, that focus in that community, you have able to employ the locals, you're able to upskill them from what you have been saying, and the fact as well that allows you to control all of the manufacturing process. So I'm guessing from a logistical point of view, it's quite quick to get kit made, and as you I think pointed out, the turnarounds are quicker than having to outsource those processes to someone else.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, to give you an example, so I won't mention the brand, but I'll mention the people. So there was a World Cup mountain biking that happened here in Stellenbosch in 2019, and there was a brand that arrived, and their apparel didn't arrive, and so the then world champion of Sam Gaze and Annika Langfat didn't have any apparel to ride in, and also Kate Courtney. And so, within 3 days, we made that entire team's apparel. And so, when I mentioned earlier, kind of you've got the likes of some world champions wearing apparel that we made, and that you can't do if you outsource your production. So, I must sort of just kind of put a caveat: we don't make every single thing that's on our website that we sell, but the vast majority is made in our own factory, and having that ability to control your production means that we can have very, very fast turnaround times when you need to. We certainly can't run all our production on a 3-day turnaround. I think I would have some very unhappy production managers if I said that, but
for sure.
sometimes you need to have quick production, and having your own facility enables you to do that. Yeah.
And I'm interested. From your perspective, you are the CEO. You are in charge of these 200 plus people livelihoods. Along the journey, there must be ups and downs. Through this journey of leading a business, a global business, what lessons have you learned along the way that kind of for you still hold true? Like are part of your day-to-day kind of mantra, if you will.
Yeah. So we've enjoyed a lot of success over the last 9 years. We've won multiple awards for product we produce, shows we've been to. It's not plain sailing. I mentioned to you earlier, every day is a school day. I think I've said before, it's not my quote, but Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. And I think the cycling industry has been punched in the face a few times over the last few years. A lot of those events were our own doing. Kind of not
Of
realizing
course, yeah.
that's this surge in cycling wasn't going to carry on forever. We've been quite fortunate in the fact that we are a relatively new brand in the scheme of things, only having been around for 9 years, being based in South Africa. We kind of probably were a little bit sheltered from the big global downturn, and especially because we're a growing brand, we're accessing markets that we weren't in previously.
Yeah.
We've been very fortunate not to be as badly affected as what I can see other brands are and have been affected. But certainly, there were a lot of issues that we've had to resolve, being overstocked with fabrics and having to, we had to, trim down our production locally last year. And that's never nice, having to see people lose their jobs. But ultimately, you do those things for the right reason. You do them so that you have a business the next year. And so, we're very fortunate that we have essentially three sides to our business. We have what we call our core range, which is our retail offering that you would see on our website. And then we produce custom clothing. So we produce for teams, events, and corporate clothing. And then we have an event side to our business where, as you may know, we're the global partner, apparel partner to the Epic series, the mountain bike series. And that's headlined by the Absa Cape Epic in South Africa. So, we've got global superstars that come and ride that event. And so we're the main event partner in terms of technical cycling apparel. And that includes events in Croatia, Andorra, and Switzerland. So we have you could say we've hedged our bets, not being all in just to retail, all in just to wholesale or custom. So, but make no mistake, we've certainly felt the challenges and we haven't been spared over the last few years. But I think like most cycling businesses, I think if we've been able to weather the storm over the last 2 years, we're looking to now 2025, and it's looking at from our standpoint, it's looking a lot rosier than 2024.
So, I mean, and what things have I guess you have taken from the whiplash that COVID created? What are the things that you have learned and are taking forward with you?
Sure, I can give you a whole list. We might be here a while. I think the big ones are this probably goes back into what we discussed earlier, so generally, people start a brand because, well, we were saying, a lot of cyclists start a brand because they just like cycling. And so you just start creating more and more products. And I think that was potentially one of our downfalls, and that because we had our own production, and we do have our own production, it's very easy for us just to just keep creating more and more product. So someone comes to you and says, I've got this glove and it's got this thing on the finger. Can you make one like that? And you say, yes, but I've got another glove that doesn't have that. And people also like that one. So you start making two gloves that are very, very similar to each other. And eventually we finally worked out that, you actually don't need to have such a wide offering. Sometimes a narrow offering is better and give people less choice, and people actually like less choice. So that's something we're going through
psychologically as a good trigger. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. No, so that's something we continue to go through at the moment. We are trimming down our range. So over the next year or so, the range will get slightly smaller and smaller as we work through some of our inventory and in textiles and trims and things like that. And so that certainly taught us a lesson in that, it's certainly, it costs money to house stock, and stock tied up stock tied up means you owe the bank more money. So, there's some very valuable lessons that any business owner should know. And we learned those lessons, after the COVID boom. But fortunately, we've got very good partners in the bank that we deal with and our investors. And so we've been fortunate. As I said, 2025 is looking good right now.
I'm just curious, actually, following up on that, because stock has been such a huge factor in the downfall and the kind of the decrease in the growth in the cycling industry at the moment. I mean, I'm not the only one. That is just one of many, but that's one. So does it mean for Ciovita that you are now running lower production?
Yeah, so certainly in terms of how the range is structured, I think at one point we looked and I think we had 36 different variants of bib shorts.
Whoa.
So you look at things like that and it's just too much. Even 20 will be enough, or 10 will be enough. So there's definitely been some rationalizing on that. But I think where we're fortunate is that because we control our own production, we're able to say, look, these certain styles maybe aren't selling in the same quantities as what we expected. Let's divert that production and we'll use those fabrics in our custom orders. So we've got teams and events that also need similar fabrics. And because we do all our own sublimation printing, we can divert fabric that was going to be used in our retail range. We can divert it into being used in our custom offering. So we are fortunate in that aspect. but certainly we have rationalized our range on our website and what's available to the public to purchase. And I think ultimately it results in a cleaner looking websites. We've got three of our
Hmm.
own, concept stores, retail stores, and if I go into those
Yeah.
stores, it's just Ciovita available in those stores, and certainly when you've got a tighter range, the store looks cleaner. It's more presentable.
Yeah.
It's easier to find products, and that's the same on a website. It's all very well having such a wide range, but if you can't show everything to someone that's coming to your store, well, then it's not worth it. So that's certainly a
Yeah.
lesson that we've learned.
There's also a critical point, which is it reduces the waste that you're creating. I mean, I wanted to touch on this because I can't have a CEO of a global company, that Ciovita in this case, and then not ask about the sustainability aspect, because it's the fashion industry, cycling apparel industry. It's a concern. It's a concern because of the amount of waste and sometimes the lack of resources to implement the necessary technologies to create a circular economy, to reuse old fabrics and so forth. And you know, I wanted to understand from kind of your perspective, really, what role does sustainability play in currently and in the coming years in your ecosystem?
Yeah, so I like the way you pronounce that word, ecosystem. So we've actually got a range that we have started to grow on, and we call it Echo. So like an
Mm.
ecosystem, we've just called it Echo because we believe that everything that we put out into the world eventually comes back to you like an echo. So it's something that is very on the forefront of things we're doing. It's top of mind in the products that we're creating, and we've got certainly got a lot of goals that we need to achieve. We're certainly not where we want to be, but the advantage of being able to physically see the product we're creating. I can literally get up out of my office, I can walk downstairs, and I can see the cutting room. I can see the waste that's lying on the floor. I can
Yeah.
see the rolls of fabric that haven't been used from last season. And when you get to see that with your own two eyes, that's very different to seeing it on a spreadsheet with numbers. So it's very easy to say, we planted these many trees and to, offset the carbon,
Yeah, a
we
bit
did
of
all these things.
greenwashing, but
Yeah, but ultimately when you get to see it, and so there are a lot of initiatives that we put into place. The easy ones are, deal with suppliers from credible mills that are blue sign approved, use recycled fabrics, recycle your waste where you can. Those are the easy ones, and those are things that we should all be doing. Any manufacturing plant should do those, but the more difficult ones are the waste that you create. And let's be honest, that everyone creates waste. It's
yeah, oh
unavoidable.
yeah, for sure.
It's like, but it's the waste that you create. What are you doing with that? And so in a sense, we've got two issues of waste. It's the waste that we create when we make the product. And there's the waste we create when the product gets to its end of life. And how do we
Mm.
deal with both of those? Because they're very different.
Yeah.
So the here and now is what we can see, and that's the waste that we're creating when we're making the product. So things that we have done and we continue to improve on is we take the waste when we cut our fabric, and from the cutting room we separate that. So we separate all our polyester and our nylon, and the polyester without any elastane, that we send
Mhm.
to a recycler, and they're able to actually it goes through a big shredding machine, and it gets cut down into very small sort of like fluffy particles, and that then gets either used. We bring it back to our own facility, and we have community-based projects where we use that as filling for things like dog beds for dog shelters, or we pass it on to um, a a carpet manufacturer that uses it in their underfelt and their carpets for low cost housing. So those are things we are currently busy with. There are a whole bunch more that we want to deal with. And then in terms of the end of life, which I think is probably something that's very topical at the moment, is what are brands doing at the end of life? And so that's really where we need to strategize on how can we sort that out. So things we currently do is we accept clothing. So if you've purchased clothing from us in our stores, you can leave your old clothing with us, and we'll either donate that clothing to a local charity. And that's pretty much what we're able to do most of the time. If we can't donate it, then again, it goes in that same, let's call it waste pile, and goes and gets shredded. But ultimately, the goal would be for that garment to be converted back into into fiber again, and then obviously to make another cycling garment that we would make. Unfortunately, at this stage, we're not actually able to produce the types of fabrics in our mills locally in South Africa. So we are reliant on the mills in Europe and predominantly in Italy. So I'm hoping at some point maybe we'll be able to get that end of life product back to the mills in Italy. But at this point, it's not something we're able to do.
So there's already, it seems already there's a few actions that you are implementing to reduce that waste and give it a new life. But yeah, like many things in the cycling industry, and that applies to all of the fashion industry, it's still, I think, it's still not enough. There's a lot more that can be done, just because it's necessary when you're looking at where we are in concerning the environment, and also the fact that people are being more educated about the environmental responsibilities that each one of us has, and more specifically brands have. And that, I think, that is a crucial part, is brands recognizing that they have the responsibility to take action on that, and there is a role for them to play in also educating. But I saw recently a statistic which is like from over 70% of Gen Z were looking at the sustainability credentials of a brand, because they are making more informed purchases and want to have a product that aligns with their values. So brands are already taking notice of that and are aligning with the people what they want. But obviously that comes at the cost. There's a bit of R&D that needs to be developed continuously to make sure that the purchasing environmentally friendly product versus a product that wastes tons and tons of water, of fabric, and so forth, that the price discrepancy is not like...
Sure, yeah. I think what's important is also that, is that buying decision when people are buying the product is to look and ask yourself, is this product going to be durable? Is it going to be fashionable? Is it going to suit me in a year's time? I think that's important, and I think that's with all brands. You as a brand, we want to create a product that's desirable, but again, we don't want a product that's going to be wasted or thrown away in 6 months' time. So I think that's particularly true for the cycling industry, and I think that is one aspect where I feel the cycling industry is good at, in that I think naturally, because we're so connected with the environment, and we've got two wheels on the ground, I think naturally we are more aware of potential greenwashing and things that will be kind of get the wool pulled over our eyes. So yeah.
And I wanted to, I wanted to just slightly shift here. How do you see this brand in 10 years, 20 years, 50 years time? What is the kind of the legacy that you want to leave behind?
Yeah, I think, I've got a picture in my mind of how I see Ciovita in 10 years time. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get an artist to take that picture from my mind and put it onto words. And it's certainly something that we're busy with, because I think everyone at the office wants to know what's in my mind. So we've got a vision. We've got a 10-year vision for Ciovita, and within 10 years, we'd like to have 10 Ciovita retail stores around the world. We'd like to be a brand that we can be proud of, and the brand that we can be proud where we've taken Woodstock to the world. And first and foremost, we want to be a brand that inspires people to ride their bikes and inspires people to get out and connect with other people whilst riding their bikes. I think that's the most important thing. If we can encourage people to have connections whilst exercising, whilst commuting, whilst riding their bikes. That for us, having that connection and enjoying what you do, if we can inspire people to ride their bike more often and inspire more people to ride, then that will naturally involve the brand succeeding. So yeah, it's a great vision to have, and that's the one that we hold. And we've got a long way to go to get there, and kind of we'll take
Yeah.
every day at a time. But yeah, that's kind of our 10-year goal.
Very good. And, this is a question that I ask every guest. Personally, for you, for Andrew, what does success look like to you?
That's a hard one. I probably should have gone through your previous guests and see what they said. So maybe hopefully I don't repeat. I don't repeat what they said.
There's
I
no
think
right or wrong answer here.
I think for me, probably as I've got older, I realized that success is having a happy family. Success for me is having children that are proud to call you their father, to have just a wife that supports you and is happy to be around you. And success to me, I guess, is the contribution that I can make to the community around me. That's currently, I reside in Cape Town, South Africa, and so I've got the ability, having the company manufacturing based in South Africa. I've got the ability to change people's lives and to make life a better place for them.
Yeah.
And therefore, if I can inspire our workforce to get behind creating employment and uplifting a community, I guess, then, that has an echo effect on, Cape Town to the world, South Africa to the world, and ultimately it leaves the community here in a better place. I guess, long story
Yeah.
short is, it might seem like a cliche, but, leaving the world in a better place, that's, I guess, what Andrew would like to do as well.
Very good. So it comes to the point in the podcast where every guest is left a question by my previous guests, not knowing who they are. So the question is this, and I think it may reveal a little bit about the cycling culture in South Africa. And the question is this. So how do you diffuse the tension between riders and car drivers? And how do we get more people out of the cars to riding bikes? So it's a two-part question.
The easy answer is respect. So cyclists need to respect the car drivers, and by respect, it's how you ride your bike. It's putting a flashing red light on the back of your bike so they can see you. It's indicating when you're about to turn. It's having respect, knowing that, not every car driver has cycled a bike in their life. Maybe they don't know that cycling on a piece of tar this wide is not that possible. You actually do need a meter to cycle. Knowing that, we need to watch out for potholes and we do need to swerve, and we don't do it on purpose. So I think a cyclist having respect for the cars is important, and the same for the cars, and have respect for the cyclists. When we ride, we have a Wednesday ride. We have a weekly ride on Wednesday, and sometimes we'll have 20, 30 cyclists, and the cars don't realize that it actually is better to ride two abreast. I'm not sure what the rules are these days in the UK, but for a long time in South Africa, it was always considered to ride single file is the safest way. But by riding two abreast, which actually is encouraged, but the vehicles don't know it's encouraged. By riding two abreast, you're actually your peloton is smaller, so you kind of are the size of a bus. So I always know when cars get angry and they get upset, and I've got the opportunity to talk to them when they're calm, is to say, hang on a second, if there was a bus in front of you, would you have hooted? Would you have reacted like you reacted now? And like the same for cyclists, we're not three buses. We've got to be one bus. So there's a time and a place where your peloton might be too big, and you need to split it. So there's just respect, I think, is the most important. And I think your second question was, how do we get more people to ride the bikes?
Yeah.
We do that by creating a safe environment for people to ride their bike. So, and I guess it's, is it chicken or egg here? Well, what's going to come first? Are more people going to ride their bikes to make it safer, or the cyclists going to make it safer themselves to encourage more people? So I think, it's the two are hand in hand. But first and foremost, we both need to respect each other.
Yeah, very good. I mean, respect is critical because it's showing a bit of understanding. Even if you don't ride bikes, you know, sympathizing and like giving them some space, because you don't know the levels of confidence that people are riding bikes, and they are sharing the same space as you. So they also have families, they also have children that they want to go back to, and they are people,
Yeah.
they're humans. And like, I drive cars, I ride bikes. So, I see it both sides. But yeah, critically, it boils down to respect. You're having kindness towards humans. That's what it boils down to. But I think with the last question is, I think what when this one is more looking at the government side, because there are plenty of studies showing that if you build it, if you create the space for cyclists, for people riding their bikes, wanting to within cities, people will start using them because they, the barrier of safety, that's what puts people off, and it eliminates the choice factor. If I can get from A to B quickly and safely, I probably will choose the most easier way to get there. And that can be by riding a bike. And if you have that choice, it's great. But if you don't, then you're taking a gamble.
Yeah.
But those are my thoughts as well on that. I just thought of chipping into the question. We get such amazing questions that guests leave to one another. Sometimes I find that I also want to chip in and answer myself.
No, good.
So,
yeah.
with that said, Andrew, what question would you like to leave to my next guest?
What question would I like to leave? That's a tricky. Is it a trick question?
No.
Your next guest. Okay, let's do an easy one. If you had to organize a bicycle race, where would you organize it and why?
Okay, very good. These questions are great. Are brilliant at getting conversation started and really even sparking ideas. So thanks for sharing that question. Andrew, it's been great chatting with you, understanding more about, your roots, and the purpose you have with Ciovita, and really taking us on a journey of entrepreneurship and like really focus on achieving your goals. And that's kind of thing those are lessons that people like myself can take, solo entrepreneurs, business owners, brands can take, even from the experience you shared from Ciovita. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Pedro. I really enjoyed it. And it's like I said, every day is a school day. So enjoy it.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to Ride to Success on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. Leave us a review and share this conversation with someone who might need a dose of inspiration or motivation. I'm your host, Pedro Couto Lopez. You can find me on LinkedIn under my own name. And remember, this is a podcast run solely by me. If you have any feedback, please feel free to share it. Until next time, write your own success.